Let me see. Let me reshare it. Let's see if we are live or not.
Sure.
Can you check on your side actually?
On the
Yes,
YouTube
we
part?
are live. Yes, we are
Okay.
live. And can you check on? Yeah.
Oops.
Hello everyone.
Yes. Hello,
Merry
Devinder.
Christmas to all. Yeah.
Please, you take the lead first of all. Then I'll be listening.
Yeah. Cool. So guys, this is not a session or something. We are just going to a random chat with the Chaudhary. Yogesh Chaudhary, he's a startup and he's a founder enthusiast. And he's a founder and a startup enthusiast.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. That's the right way to say.
yeah, exactly. What we are going to do, we will just wait for 1 minute so people can join, and we'll start for the like talk. I'll just message on the group we are live, and we can go further. Till then, Yogesh, how was doing? How you, like how was your day?
Okay, so honestly speaking, it was exhausting. I even slept late at night, so doing things, figuring out how to get things done, organizing stuffs. But overall, in terms of productivity, it was well.
So
And yeah, yeah, that is
yeah,
how
so
it was.
is this a like normal day you face? Like, is this your daily schedule or what?
Not exactly. So some days are very hectic. Some days are like wherein I take some breaks, even if I don't know if I'm supposed to take or not. But overall, if I'll say, it's like I don't feel that is it a weekend time. It's a weekday time. It's something which I have to work on. So if there's something which is where what comes in my priority, I'll get that thing done. So it's mostly like doing works, getting stuffs done, especially in startups which are required. And
Yeah.
then being a founder, I have this leverage of deciding when I need to take break and when not to take break. So yes, but yeah,
That's
this is
that.
how
Yeah,
the
that's
day
a
was for me.
amazing perk when you have a startup founder. Like you can work whatever the timing you want to. Like yeah,
That is something which I believe can be done either way. Like, well, I'm not an expert in this field, and I won't say, and it depends. But what I can still say is what really matters is your productivity. You work
yeah,
asynchronously, you work synchronously. Whatever way you feel will really improve your productivity, you work that way. It definitely also boils down to team and how teams want to take it.
yeah,
But teams should, in general, take the approaches wherein they can get best productivity. Now again, I'm not the one and to define what is the best productivity part, but in general, if I have to talk about context part, you decide what really works best for the team, you decide what really works best with the work, and you try to bring that soft spot wherein your team is happy, you are happy, and the work is being done in the right phase. So but again, like I mentioned, either it being a synchronous work, asynchronous work,
yeah,
uh, what really matters is the productivity, and one should not really focus too much on the way and operations to get the productivity part. You just look at how the team is responding.
yeah. So what
But
is your
again,
preferred like? Are you a night owl or what? So are you prefer working on in morning or are you preferred working on night?
this is an interesting question. See, me coming from this startup, which we'll discuss later on in more detail, which is more of an health and wellness domain startup. One thing that I can say for certainly is what really matters is you need to have a very specific work schedule and sleep schedule. You cannot bring a lot of variation in your sleep schedule.
Yeah,
And looking from that perspective, the way we normally operate and we normally prefer to work at daytimes because we either way have some work, and at night
yeah,
times we prefer to sleep. The best way to have your day done is you sleep at night well, at least. And this is again, this varies for every individual, but at least
yeah,
somewhere in the range of 6 hours to 8 hours, and you do your work all the day around the way it is. Specifically talking about me again, I do what is required to be done. Mostly,
yeah,
I'm mostly I do work late nights because I'll tell you my schedule. I work
yeah,
in daytimes. I work for my startup. in night times, whenever and whatever required, I also work as in freelancing thing. So to bring in more context, I do freelancing writing. There is this amazing company, and I say amazing because first of all, it is developer driven. It's
Yeah.
the community is strong there, and we provide contents which are really useful for the people. And to bring in more
Yeah.
idea, we provide contents like how can you develop an application in
Yeah.
Android, iOS, let's say in Flutter, wherein I
Mhm.
majorly work on. So I do my freelancing thing there, like writing articles, editing articles, going through them if something needs to be changed or not,
Uh-huh.
even working on video contents as well. So again, mostly my daytime goes to startup. At night times when required, I work in my freelancing thing. But sometimes, sometimes startups generally needs to run fast, so sometimes I even
Yeah.
have to push at night times as well. But the best thing what I can say is I still try to restore my sleep, which I have sort of, in the whole working scenario, which I have not been able to finish. I just try to get that thing again back somewhere in the daytime or nighttime. But if I have to suggest best thing for anyone in general, see, it's always easy to, say
Yeah.
I do really work at night times a lot. It feels good, but honestly speaking, if you really have to look in long terms, you cannot have
Mhm.
unsustainable sleeping and working times. You need to have, and first of all, systematic and pragmatic way to which you can go through the days, and secondly, you need to prioritize your sleep. So it is something which, again, where everyone can say this, which I'll again say, you should not be proud of that you are not sleeping well because you're doing work. It is something which you need to be concerned about.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
let's start your journey. Like, how was your journey so far, and how you get out of the college, and you think about the Daito Shore. And first of all, what is Daito Shore? How are you working on that?
Yeah, so speaking about, bringing context about Daito Show, and I'll probably start with the story the way we started Daito Show. Maybe that
Yeah,
will,
100%.
because we have time, so why not to
Yeah,
try
yeah,
to make it
yeah,
as a pitch thing.
yeah.
So when we were in college, me and my friend who is right now along with me, the other co-founder in Daito Show, when we were in college, we came up with this recent interesting research that happened in Israel, which said that every individual's body react to different foods in a different manner, and it made sense because every person has a different metabolism, every person has even different lifestyle. So whatever lifestyle choices they make, how what genetics, what kind of role genetics might play there, all these sort of will influence your metabolism. So what will let's say really work for me might not be the same thing which will work for you. That's part one of story, which says that every person is very much different, and they have a personalized impact of diet, which you cannot
Yeah.
simply say by uh, by normal industry standards. For instance, if I'm supposed to ask you what is good for you, is it ice cream or is it brown bread, you cannot
Yeah.
simply right away say that probably it's brown bread good for me, and ice cream is bad for me because ice cream is
Yeah.
purely sugar content thing. But that might not be the case. It might be reverse. So what I mean to say is it's very personalized. You cannot in an quantized manner say in a rightly manner that this will be the best thing. Now second thing which we also came to, which we knew either way, which we realized was that from the moment of industrialization, we have been having a lifestyle, especially like guys like us who maybe are working on the podcasting or writing development
Yeah.
codes, and or maybe designing stuffs. Guys who mostly stay in a sedentary lifestyle wherein they don't actually move much because of
Yeah.
the work they have. Uh, because of the choices that we have chosen, the lifestyle issues are getting very, very much more, prevalent. And one of the reason is
Mhm.
because the way humans are designed, we are supposed to eat more. We are supposed to eat, then store it, and then use it for the remaining time till we are not eating it. But right now, what is
Yeah.
happening is we are eating something, and we are again eating maybe after a hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, and we are
Yeah.
again eating, but we are not using that energy that we have stored. So
Yeah.
ideally it should be like we are storing the food, we have used some of the energy, we are using it for the whole duration, but we are not going
Yeah.
through that whole process. So what is happening is we are
Yeah.
having this metabolic syndrome issues, lifestyle issues, and
Yeah.
wherein what we believe is if we can bring analytics to what and how actually events and diets and food is impacting you, activities are impacting you, you can
Yeah.
make you can choose, you can bring understand what really works for you and can provide a better lifestyle which will really work for you.
Yeah.
And this can in my understanding, the way we have seen in market, even we have competitions as well which even proves this part. This makes a really big impact on people who have again metabolic issues, either it being diabetes or obesity or anything. So if they can understand what really works for them, what won't really work for them, they can make the right choices. Even
Mm-hmm.
the doctors, if they can understand, and nutritionists, they can understand what will really work for a person, what won't really work for a person, they will be able
Yeah.
to make more. I'm not saying they have been not being able to get the results, deliver the results which they have been, but they will be able to deliver those results more efficiently. So something that
Yeah.
you can look into by the service which we provide. So this is about dietitian. To in a pitch manner, if I have to summarize and shorten the whole discussion that I mentioned, is we provide analytics for you to understand how your metabolism is being impacted by the diets and activities and lifestyle that you choose, specifically on how your glucose level is being impacted by all these events. So if you understand one parameter there, you will be able to understand all the other parameters more or less, again if you have that medical understanding. But what we want to achieve is we want to make the process of understanding those parameters more simpler for user end, and for the people who provide recommendation to the users in a manner wherein they can make quick and right judgments
Yeah.
and personalized
Yeah.
judgments for their clients and patients.
Okay. So
So this
that
is this is
like
about dietitian.
okay. So like if you want to summarize the whole Daito show in like one sentence or maybe two lines, so what do you will? It's a personalized Daito show. What do you think? Like how do you
So
summarize the Daito show in one sentence, basically?
So if I have to summarize Writer in one sentence, I'll probably go with transforming metabolism, transforming metabolism syndrome, and transforming metabolism in general in a more personalized, precise, and real-time manner with the help of analytics. It's a
Yeah.
little long, but it does the job, I believe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, so that's about Dietitian in general. Now coming back to how we started this whole concept, like I mentioned, we had this idea and we knew these two things which are in place. So we realized there's a requirement somewhere we can bring something in the business or in society which can really bring a value. Then me and my other co-founder, we had been always looking for opportunities to work on to some products which really well excites us, if I have to use the right word.
Yeah.
We knew this
Mm-hmm.
something which we find to be the future part. Why? Because see, if I have to summarize the medical domain in my understanding, that is what my opinion is. There has been advancement in medical domains, and in engineering field and medical field has worked hand to hand to bring all this advancement in medical domain. For instance, there was a time when doctors used to just see the person's pulses by putting hands, like
Yeah.
the thumb on the hand, and figure out if the person is well or not. Then stethoscope came into picture. Then we have this X-ray machines, MRI machines, which bring in more data
Mm-hmm.
and tell how the patient is in a more in a way which was not earlier possible. And we have more
Yeah.
data, we are able to diagnose them better and are able to provide them right set of help which is required. Then the aspect of this data part when it comes to health industry, it brings a lot of
Mm-hmm.
insights on how can the patient be diagnosed well and can be treated well as well. So we see a trend which will move ahead. And now coming the coming the era is coming of, maybe you can say, the a web3 part, AI part, all
Yeah.
these things are
That's what.
coming.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, so when you have more data and if you can make sense of data in a manner wherein maybe you can understand some patterns, it really makes sense, especially in medical industry, and not just in medical industry, in many industries. So we felt this to be one of the biggest thing which we can dive into and work. And that is how we started it up. But in our college time, like I mentioned, we have been into multiple things. We have been
Mm-hmm.
working in applications where you can figure out what in which country your application belongs to. Like App
Yeah.
Country is one of the applications which we developed with our friends. We also worked on something like uh, wherein, let's say, if I am addicted to YouTube, for instance, which I am because I like the contents which are placed there.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can figure out a timing which in a way is there in
Yeah.
current mobile smartphones. What I can do is I can just put up an time limit that this is the only amount of time which for which I'll be using YouTube, and I use
Yeah.
YouTube for only that moment of time.
Yeah.
And if I'm using more than what I have said, first of all, I'm not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
But if I still want to use it, I'll have to pay a
Mm-hmm.
price for it.
Yeah.
There will be a pain associated with it. Let's say if I use more than that, I'll have to possibly have need to go with an economical loss. Like for instance, I betted that I'll using YouTube for 2 hours, but if I use it
Mm-hmm.
for 2.5 hours, the
Yeah.
next 30 minutes is something which will penalize me. I'll have to pay for the 30 minutes, so that will be a pain for me, and I'll not work, or I'll not prefer to watch YouTube. So it's
Yeah.
where you try to bring more discipline perhaps in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
if I have to explain it in a manner, if you to bring more discipline and get your goals, get you focused on more appropriate and relevant thing which will you decide yourself which you feel are more
Yeah.
appropriate, and less things, less
Yeah.
productive things like just binge eating, watching something which is not really bringing value to you in general. You
Mm-hmm.
trying to make your habit not to go onto that field by associating some
Yeah.
sort of pain. Then we also worked on something which is, you can call it as an community based sharing platform, wherein, let's say, if
Okay.
I am in a college, in your college for instance, and I want to go into a trip, and I want to you know just store those moments, but I don't have a camera, I want a good camera. Just call it as my interest. For instance, people do have interest of capturing snapshots. So what I can do is I can just, in the college community, I can just go there and I can just ask in that application if there is someone who is having camera and can provide to me, maybe on rental basis for apps. And if that is something which happens, I can just take it from you,
Mm-hmm.
from the community. You can trust me because I'm in your college. You can
Yeah.
trust me that I won't damage it up, or you can choose
Yeah.
not to give it to me if that is what you feel, right? But
Yeah.
the biggest perspective was that since we are in a similar community, we trust ourselves more than otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And if I
Yeah.
require a camera and I'm not sure in community if someone is having camera or someone is ready to give the camera, I it is really very hard for me to figure out someone. But if I know someone is ready to give the camera, willing, so I can really easily approach to the person. So this is one of the platform which we developed, wherein we can have this community sharing things. Then this data show comes into picture. Even
Yeah.
we
So
have
what
many
is
things to
the like?
we worked on many things, to be very honest. I'll just
Yeah.
keep the list short because we have time limits as well. Please go ahead,
So
Yogesh.
the main part of the conversation is like to like we all startups are finds the problem and builds a solution for it. Like, so what is the ideal way to determine the problem to start and how to come up with the ideas? Like how the ideal startup should work on the step by step basis.
So this is a very important question in nowadays time. Thanks for bringing this question. I'm not saying that I have the best answer, but I can provide the best possible answer
Yeah.
that I can come up
Your
with.
perspective is very
Uh,
important.
yes, the perspectives are really important. The perspectives sometimes the combination of perspective is what you can ultimately come up with a better approach towards. If, let's say, I'm not going to speak, or you're not going to speak, there's a lack of perspective which might could have, or which could have added a value out there. So perspectives are generally very important for
So
sure.
problems to start, like
So
how
yeah, coming to the question. So I think what really matters is you need to you need to pick up a problem which is either something which is a pain point for society. wherein wherein you think if you can bring a business perspective into it, you can really bring value to society. For instance, I'll take an example from the designing industry. Let's say before Figma we
Mm-hmm.
had softwares like Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop to do designing stuff, and there are other softwares as well. But for a person who is in college, who has no license at all, who just really wants to work on designing industry, he has no way to get those resources and work on them. More or less, ultimately there are other ways as well, but those ways are something which normally either at least someone is not preferring by themselves, like having the cracks softwares to use it in general. But when Figma came into picture, it solved a problem for a lot of UI UX designing enthusiasts and designing enthusiasts in general, who can just go into Figma platform on web and can do
Yeah.
the designing part, what they really want to do. So it solved a problem for people who really want to do designing, but they are not able to have an access to that platform. Example where what I was saying was, you pick up a problem which really is a concern for someone in the industry, or there's something which is not currently existing in industry. But let's say
Yeah.
if you bring that value in the industry or in the society, it will be a big
Mm-hmm.
thing. For instance, no one imagined Netflix will be a big player. Definitely,
Yeah.
we do see pictures. We used to see television channels, content, but no one really knew that I probably might prefer to watch Iron Man right now. And
Mm-hmm.
if there would have been a platform which can just at this moment of time help me go through that content, will help me out. So
Yeah.
so if you think that there's something, and this is like where I believe big things can happen, if you can figure out if you can figure out a domain or a problem statement which right now is not existing, or at least people the consumer is not aware of. And if you can work on that problem statement, if you can make it big,
Mm-hmm.
you are, in a way, you will be able to create a monopoly,
Yeah.
or at least you will be a big player, which any startup probably won't is thriving on. So so to again, to come back to the question, so two things which I have right now said. One thing is, you figure out a problem wherein it is really pain point for some specific consumer domain which you are looking forward for, or you're figuring out consumers who might have a pain point which you might bring value to, or there's some service which people are not right now aware of, but if that service will come, this will bring a lot of value to the company. But one thing that I think we should not go into is, you don't try to start up a startup. You don't try to start a startup and then try to figure out what problem I'm going to solve. First of all, try to figure out a problem that you think working on it will really make a big impact. It should make big impact on society as well as on business side. If it can't make
Yeah.
impact on business side, your time might not be worth. I'm not
Yeah.
saying problem working on problems might
Mm-hmm.
is not worth, but see, if you really want to get a big startup, if you really want to
Yeah.
if you want to build up a scalable startup, you need to work on an idea which really makes sense from business perspective, something like this. So you need to keep that thing into perspective, and accordingly you pick up the problem, you
Mm-hmm.
decide how can you solve the problem, you get the solution for it, and then if you are completely sure about everything, you have done the user acknowledgement part. What I mean to say by user
Yeah.
acknowledgement part is, you have gone through users, you have discussed with them, you have asked them, is it really problem for them or not, and how can this problem be resolved. Once you have done your homework, you maybe are ready to go with the startup.
Yeah. And like there are so many questions. Like everyone is hitting on Instagram and the social media. Like, can AI replace the man force to build the products, or what is the AI perspective, so we can utilize it in on the startup?
See, AI is This question that you have brought in has been
Yeah.
a question which has been is probably is being asked everywhere. Whenever we discuss about AI, especially when Chat GPT came into picture, where you can just go there, type in something, you get answers right away. Even you can get full curated contents as well. This question has came a lot. Even in past, this question has came a lot, and there is I'll say I don't have a right answer to it, but what I have is, again, is a perspective, is that I don't believe that AI in general will be an issue for humanity in
Not
general.
yet. Not yet.
Not yet, not in future as well. See, ultimately, what happens is, what AI does is, we have a lot of big data. Okay, we have this big data. We figure out some use case that we need to work on. Maybe
Yeah.
it could be a classification problem for maybe self-driving cars, to understand if the object standing in front of them is a person, or is a car, or there's nothing there. Okay, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it for a chat GPT thing is wherein the model wants to understand if we want to get some answers. What
Yeah.
all these things are doing is, we have a big data. We have figured out some patterns, and now, based on the patterns, we are trying to bring in some results which are helpful out there.
Yeah.
So it's in a way is trying to go through data, understand data, and is trying to provide you some prediction on what is likely what you require, or what is likely what is the object in front of you. So, looking from this perspective, believe what one thing which AI, at least as of now, is not able to do, and possible in future as well. Even if it does, I'm still not totally convinced that it will be an issue in future, which I'll come
Yeah.
back to on later discussion. But what I believe is, it still won't be able to think uh, on an in a very critical way of going forward. Like, we humans, if we have some situations when we need to act,
Yeah.
we have the ability to figure out how to go forward with things.
Yeah.
Okay, AI cannot do it very well. AI cannot do it if it has never been into that situation, but we might
Yeah.
be able to do it. Okay, we are very complex enough to do that part. So
Yeah.
the thinking part of it, the part wherein we really need to bring in a lot of maybe intellectual knowledge, cognitive thinking, is where
Yeah.
you will still stay ahead. Coming to this question which you bring about the manual
Like
part, the
how
labor
it could
part,
be like, yeah, how it can
job
help
part first,
you
which
to
if I have
build
to say.
a part, like how to, like how the AI can like help you to build a good product. So because I have seen some of the AIs working online, so we can just like type or something, he just draws and everything. So he might like change. He might what we can say is he might change the job description of the graphic designer. So, what is your thought about that?
I'll come to that question. I just want to, before coming to that question, I think
Mhm.
we are also less on time. But before coming
Yeah,
to that question, I will like to summarize the earlier question which we were discussing
yeah,
about the manual labor part. When industrialization came
Mhm.
into picture, a lot of manual thing which people were supposed to do, maybe weaving, bringing, producing clothes and other things, they felt machines took over. If I have
yeah,
to be more specific, so some opportunities were lost, but
yeah,
other way to look around is new opportunities got created. Earlier on, we were not
Mhm.
having UI UX designers, product designers,
yeah,
but right now we have. So even if, let's say, AI takes some jobs out there, but it will
Mhm.
bring more opportunities for new jobs to flourish. So from that perspective, humans will always be, valuable, and they might be focusing on things which they might focus on things which are really required, when they can bring their value, but new jobs will always be created. What I really mean to say. So at least in a short term, I'm not concerned about AI being able to take the at least human jobs, but on manual labor jobs, that
yeah.
definitely will have an replacement for sure. But overall, I
Summarizingly,
think
AI
I'm
still needs,
positive
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yes, but it will it def
Summarizingly,
if
the AI still needs a human touch, right?
It will need human touch, but it will definitely need human touch. It will take manual jobs, perhaps, because we want our works to be more optimized. Industries want things to be done in an efficient manner, but jobs will still stay, and that is something which I believe new jobs might come into picture. Now, going back to your question, if you can repeat that next question you were asking. Sorry.
Yeah, the next question, like the question has to so like not in the row. So like the next question is what is the ideal steps to get started? Like how you started for the light year sure, and though that effective way can help us to all other the startup enthusiasts. So what is the ideal steps to get started for the let's say if we plan to uh, build any digital product. So we need a team. So for that from the selecting the problem statement to the building the product and founding the team, what are the ideal steps so we everyone can follow, and that not varies startup by startup.
So right now, I don't have a clarity if there are these ideal steps exist. I don't have a clear answer towards it. What I can still say is the steps that will more or less in general I think should a person should take. A person should first of all figure out a problem or an idea that he wants to work or she wants to work in a startup, or for which she or he wants to build up a startup. Once he or she has determined that this is really a problem, and this is something which really can be looked into and solved into, and they have received customer testimonials who are speaking of the same part, they should go into testing that idea. So what is being called as a POC stage, so proof of concept. You build up something, a solution for apps. You try to test it out in the market if it really works for people or not. If it works, great, you are on the right track. If it is not working for the people, you try to change it based on the feedback that you have received, uh, till the moment you get an surety that this will really work out for you, or this idea really makes sense. This problem is something which is real and you can solve it, or at least this is something which people will really value in general. So you get this POC thing done right. Okay, you have proved the concept. People are ready. They are happy about the product. They are positive about the product, more or less.
Yeah.
Things might really break in general. In when you start working on something, on a startup or an idea, even in a proof of stage time, there might be possibilities that things are not working. But what you really need to be focused on is getting what getting things done what are required to be done at that moment of time. If it's a bug, you fix the
Mm-hmm.
bug, you let the person know, and he will be able to provide you uh, feedback based on what changes you have implemented, if it is helping for the person or not. So just get that POC thing done. Once you have done the POC thing, it will depend. Like, let's say if you feel your startup requires you know funding, because it's maybe a product based thing, or it's something where it will require a huge investment to start things up in a professional scale, you probably go out and seek out for the initial funding, you know from investors. And right now investors are
Yeah.
very happy to fund up a startup who can really scale and who can really solve a problem out there. So you
Yeah.
go with that stage. Otherwise, if you think that your startup can still go ahead, you can
Mm-hmm.
bootstrap things up. You focus more on business, get those bootstrap thing done. When you feel now you can use funding, it might be for maybe it can
Yeah.
be for scaling very fast, and you feel scaling fast will really make sense. And startups generally need to scale very fast. So maybe the right way to say is, if you feel that you require money for scaling very fast, you go for investment. If you feel you require money for getting the teams which can get things more efficient and optimized and again scale very
Mm-hmm.
fast, get the
Mm.
investment.
Yeah.
One thing I actually missed out. Sometimes what happens is, maybe we'll come to that part later on, because that will disrupt the whole flow. So once you have determined if you really have to take the funding or if you don't have to take the funding, you choose a path. Let's say you
Yeah.
chose the path of taking funding, but either way steps are same. You try to get the team, the core team, which will be working on your startup. Because see, when you are working about when you're working for a solution, you will always require team. You
Yeah.
cannot be one man army or two three people who can work on things. You will require a team who can bring values in different aspects, because when it comes to companies in general, you have to look multiple areas. You need to look at the
Yeah.
branding aspect at this moment of time. You will look at the you will need to look at the customer relationship part. You will need to look at the product part, and many things in general. So you get the right team into place, who can stick the core team, if I have to be more specific, because initial team is very important and crucial for startups, because again, teams are required. And if you can have a team with a right skill set and right interest with the product
Yeah.
which you are, they'll first of all stick for longer duration. They'll get connected to idea, and will bring values and ideas which otherwise might not be possible if you don't choose the right team. And they'll work in right enthusiasm out there. So you get the right team, you get the core team in place. You do sales, you improve product, and you just iteratively do this process. In the meantime, you will have to go through the phases of marketing, letting people know that you exist, and take things forward. But that is something which will happen like a normal business, and that is something which will happen again and again and again. What you really need to do initially is pick up an idea, figure out if it is really something which you need to work on, prove this idea, go with the proof of concept, see if people are interested into it. Then try to build up a team, figure out if you require investment. If you require investment, get the investment. If you don't require investment, just start with the team and start providing the services or the product that you want to sell to the customer.
Yeah. So we have a question from Tejas.
Sure.
Like he's asking, what trends do you see in the market right now?
Trends as in which field? That is very essential. If you can
But
clarify that
in
part.
overall, let's say Tejas is working in the uh, digital product industry. So you can summarize the digital product industry. What are the trends do you see in the market right now?
So, few trends that we are right now seeing is, you know, at least few companies, and there are some companies who are coming and taking the approach of Web3. Few trends that are visible from that aspect is user data is being very much taken into consideration. Any company who is working or going to work on data, they probably need to figure out to ensure that user data is being kept, and user trust has been developed that your data is being secure.
Yeah.
Few more trends which are visible right now in digital products is AI is bringing AI is basically bringing up an will bring and is trying to bring up a big impact. Like, you go with an any company, they'll perhaps wants to integrate some form of AI into their product. Like, if you
Uh,
in past, banks were not too much into AI things. Banks were not too much into providing an personalized way of getting information, but now they are into it. They are trying to get into it,
yeah.
that stage. Healthify Me, for instance, right now has this AI based system which can provide you recommendation on what diets you should need to eat based on the goals you have, maybe weight loss or anything else. So this is something which people are incorporating into the system as much as possible, if they see in scope. Because again, like we discussed earlier, what AI can do is AI can make systems more efficient. AI can uh, replace the human element, which are not actually which are kind of blocking the company to scale. When I say blocking the company to scale, what I mean is there's a limitation on how much a human can work and how many people can work on a specific segment of thing. So, but if AI can come into, and it can bring in the value to customers, the end customer, uh, quickly, more promptly, I think it makes sense for business, because they are able to make they are able to make the customers happy. If it is able to increase their productivity, if it is able to increase their efficiency, companies will go with it. So whatever way AI can help out, they'll take that part into consideration. One more thing about digital products, which I believe has been also going taking rise in the industry, is people are very much concerned about the way the product looks. So earlier it might not have been that much of an issue, that much of an interesting part, in past times. I'm not saying it has not been a part wherein you bring up a product which looks bad, and
Yeah.
people will still accept it. But what I mean to say is there's this important element wherein companies specifically dedicate a whole department, and put in a lot of money to to ensure that the look of product, the feel of product is right, and it is in
Yeah.
sync with what customer wants, because
Yeah.
ultimately customer will look at the value as well as what the product is. Like, for instance, if you have to distinguish between a Mac product and an non-Mac product,
Depending.
the
Yeah.
reason why Mac product really appeal to people is because they really ensure that the user experience which they provide to the
Yeah.
users
Yeah.
is the best they can try forward, and then they try to have the same thing, like they provide timely
That's what
OS
makes
updates.
the Yeah, that's what makes the user experience designers demand is going to drive.
Yeah, so what in general, from product perspective, they are really very concerned about how the product looks,
Yeah.
user experience the product provides, and they're working on it to get it as polished as possible. So that is something
Yeah.
which is there. Yeah, these are a few of the things that I'm right now able to think, which are impacting. One more thing which we can still discuss about it, and again it boils back down to the user privacy part or data part, is the concept of decentralization is also coming into picture. People want the data not to be looked into, like these companies who works on, like Facebook for instance. They
Mm-hmm.
take your data, they based on the data provide you the ads which
Yeah.
might be relevant to you, but their
Yeah.
data which they collect, they use the data to let the, the ad providers know what are your interest.
Mm-hmm.
Just an example
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
they'll mention your interest out there. They'll maybe even mention a few more other things which might be helpful for companies in an analytical perspective, for instance. And they kind of sell you data which companies use to provide you more services. But the issue with this is users data, your data is going into central system, then it is going to somewhere else, which
Yeah.
preferably, and might not be might
Yeah.
not be always a scenario, but mostly it is right now the scenario, the way the trend is going on. Preferably is not is liked by users. So
Yeah.
people want the data to be secure and safe. Like for instance, if I have to say about machine learning part, what one thing that people have to work on to get machine learning into picture is you need to
Mm-hmm.
get the data onto central servers, wherein
Mm-hmm.
the training part happens, because you always have to improve your models. That the training
Yeah.
part happens, and then you get a more better model which can provide you more better recommendation. But
Yeah.
that recommendation is coming at the cost of the data, because we are providing the data into the central systems. Now, how the data
Mm-hmm.
is being used is where you might have concern. So one more aspect which is coming right now is decentralization. For like for the machine learning part, TensorFlow has this nice thing that they are working on, which is TensorFlow. I'm not exactly remembering the name, but what
Yeah.
the whole concept is that you don't have to share the data into central systems. The
Mm-hmm.
training will happen right away into your own smartphones. Your data will stay in your
Mm-hmm.
smartphone, and that the learned part is what is being shared into the central system. So your data is still secure, is with you, and you are still able to get the value which you are hoping to get into, which you are
Mm-hmm.
hoping to get. So decentralization is also coming into picture, when people, or at least even companies, are also preferring to keep data into decentralized manner, wherein data maybe stays into the system of a user. It does not go out, which brings the user privacy, and which brings that sort of confidence in users that the user data is being stored in their systems, and the user privacy is being respected. And yeah, these are a few of the things which I'm able to think, which is shaping the current digital product industry, and the trends which we will continue to see on forward, which will move ahead.
Yeah, I'm adding to the decentralization part. Like that's where the Web 3.0 comes in to product the decentralize the user
Yes,
data,
yes.
and that's working perfectly fine. I've seen a browser called Bravo. They have locked up everything. There is no search history, no IP address leakage, and with the blockchain, that's what like with the help of Web 3.0, you can build actual well secured products for your users. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's right.
So we
Even
have another.
one more aspect is also coming into picture right now is the
Before that, we have
uh
a question.
please, please,
Let's take a question there. Do you-
sure. There
Okay.
there are many things to discuss on. let's
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
So,
I understand.
Jasmine is asking which is better, internships at startup or giant company? So you might have dealt with your like interns and the like your teammates. So what is your uh, perspective? Which is a better, internships at startup or giant company?
Or giant big companies,
Like MNCs or what?
MNCs. Got it.
Well funded companies.
Uh, See, this actually depends on what you are actually looking forward for the role. For instance, you might like to join the startup because you know the part that startups things are very much not too much unorganized, but things are a bit unorganized. You'll have to work on to multiple things, and you find that to be a good opportunity, wherein you can be first of all involved into something wherein your expertise in multiple areas will be required. Okay, so you will be able to work onto multiple areas which will help you to grow even more. But because
Yeah.
what might happen in MNCs or big companies in general is because the things are very much uh, there are structures that they have made. There are things that they know that this specific person needs to work on this area. This person has to work on this area. Things like that. So you might not be you perhaps will be working on something specific, and you will be working on that specific thing again and again. So possibly your learning rate, your learning curve might not be that strong, but with startups you might get that part. But let's say if you feel that your also concern is getting a better stipend or even in future, if secured future. Let's say if you work for a big company, they like your work, they definitely will hire you in future, which is what I believe, because if you are able to add value to a company, they
Hmm.
definitely will look forward to bringing you into the company. And definitely if you're working in these companies, you will also be paid well as well, because they can pay you. Maybe startups might not be able to pay you but that part, but they will be able to pay you for sure. But what advantages you have with working on startup is, and you need to choose what advantages do you really require, what really suits you, is like I mentioned. First of all, you get to work in multiple areas and domains which otherwise is a bit hard for you to work in these big companies. You get the chance to get involved into the small team, which is making a big impact. You might be liking the idea perhaps, on which the company is working on, and you would like to add value to it. You would like to see if you can add value to society, or to the product, which will even make yours hold on the industry more strong, because you can say, I worked on to this company which was a startup, and I made these impacts in the company. People will realize the value if you come into their company, which you can bring, because your ideas can be tested in startup. Might not be the case with big companies. I'm not saying it won't be, but might not be the case with big companies. And one thing, but with startups in general is, and it is not always in less, it's something which varies with startups, but you might have to work more into in startups, because in general when you work in a startup, you might have more working hours than in big company, because startups
Yeah.
are more flexible, but big companies have
Hmm.
defined timelines and days and time schedules when you have to work. But in startups, when you are required to work, you need to work. Like with the interns that we had, for instance, we definitely had a more flexible timeline on how they want to get things done. What really mattered to us was the work that has to be done. We never really focused on when they do the work, but what we really focused on the work that needs to be done. We focused and we respected the timelines that we need to work on, we need to put in,
Yeah.
and things that needs to be done. Let's say if there is some idea which they have bring forth, which we feel might really be which we feel is really bring an impact, or at least we feel we need to test it out. we just test it out right away, and you get to know if that idea is really working for you or not. And yeah, but they probably had to work, they had probably had worked more than what they had otherwise would have worked in more organized and big corporates, wherein they have predefined schedules and predefined work timings in general, and days
So
as well.
basically, I have worked like
You can share your
lot of
experience as
startups.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have worked in the startup culture, like past 6 months I'm working with them. So
Yes.
according to the most interesting part of the startup is you'll get a lot of exposure. You get a chance to wear a multiple
Yes. Yes.
hats.
That's
Like
right.
you can be a part of
You'll be
cross-platform
working
team.
on multiple things.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
At
Like
least you will get the chance to work on multiple things. You can choose.
exactly. If
Yes.
if you are like hired as a software developer, but you can be a part of cross-platform team with designers for user research and or with CFO to pitch the stakeholders too. And
Mm-hmm.
the the more good thing about startup is you'll get a lot of exposure. Whatever idea you have, you can like you get benefited for that uh, stipend wisely like it's like a simple formula like if you work hard for the startup and startup will grow then will obviously the startup will value you, will
Yes,
incentivize
definitely.
you for the whatever the price money you have. Most important part is value you are adding to the startup and they really cherish what you have done for the startup. So that's what like I believe, and I personally love to working with startups rather than MNCs because
Yeah. The
MNCs like
Yes, please
yeah
go
please
ahead.
yeah go ahead. I've done with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, and one of the biggest things that I have realized, with interns and me working in startup in general is, in big companies you might not be able to see the impact that you have been able to generate in society. But in startups, you right away know if it really worked or not. So you know something which you hoped will work or not, you will know the impact of it right away. And if it had a positive impact on business and even in the product in general, you will be very happy with that part. And
Yeah.
you can look it right away. So that is something which startup can provide, which I feel it is very hard to provide. It is very hard for a big company to provide, because they have they have a lot of systems, they have a lot of team who handle multiple scenarios. You might not be able to know what impact were you able to get into the society for the thing that you have worked on.
So like adding to that we have a question from Gaurav and he
Yes.
says startup companies goes for more technical skills or even lad with the average skills in tech. Also adding questions, quite good in soft skill. Uh, like quite good in soft skills could land a decent internship around 15-20K and PPO later on.
So got it. So can you help me understand the question?
Yeah,
I'm I don't
yeah. The
able to
question,
understand the
like
question as
there are three questions he asked. Is so first question, I'll just let you the first question. Startup companies goes for more technical skills or the average skills can beat up the startup
got it.
interviews.
I'll answer this question first of all.
Yeah.
In my understanding, an ideal startup should not an ideal startup should not look for too much expertise in the field. The expertise which is a startup should look on is something which will be able to fill in the requirement of what the startup needs to get things done. Like if I require, for instance, a Flutter developer, which we require because our application is on Flutter, I'll look for people who have sufficient understanding, have sufficient knowledge, which if they came into company will bring in the value right away. So something which I look into. I don't look into too much expertise, because
Yeah.
when too much expertise come into action, the expectation from them also come into action of payment, which I think initially the initial startups can't can't pay for, can sustain for that part. But what startups generally look out as, if I have to say, you need to have sufficient skills which can bring value or add value to the product from the moment you start working into the company, and you go throughout the phase, and the company goes throughout the phase as well. So that is the ideal way a startup should go. um, uh, Coming to the soft skill part, I believe that is what is the next question, if I'm right.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Soft skill matters a lot, but definitely if you work in a startup, you will get a lot of opportunities to improve your soft skills. One thing which you can say for sure is, let's say, what when you try to crack any interview, for instance, you need to have some good soft skills, because ultimately you are trying to sell yourself. You need to be efficiently able to sell yourself. You
Yeah.
need to be able to provide your perspective, your value that you can bring out in the company. So from that
Yeah.
aspect, soft skill is definitely something which is required. But from a startup perspective, if your work has nothing to do with speaking in general, it's maybe more
Mhm.
technical work. If it might be more some other work like designing work, or maybe some other analytical work, you don't require soft skills. But you should be able to communicate enough. That's what is definitely required. But startups, in my understanding, don't, or ideally should not, look the soft skill part uh, too much into consideration. What they really need to look into is the communication has needs to be effective. That is all that matters. But you can have
Yeah.
good communication without having good soft skills as well, and you can develop your soft
So
skills over the period of time.
so adding to that, you see there is a new term is blowing into the market called DevRel. So,
Okay,
what are your thoughts on that? That DevRel position does matter in the industry or what?
dev rel, you mean to say?
Yeah, developer
Can you?
relations. There is a position.
Yeah. So developer relation is, I don't know if I have a strong, opinion about this part, and let me know if I understand developer relation right. Is is about being able to manage and maintain developers which are in company, and being able to understand their
Mm.
requirements and perspectives in general. If am I going to the right path?
Yeah, like
Can you provide
I can
information about
I
that,
can
please?
context you. Yeah, I can context you in
Yes.
like the person, the management person who sells the like digital product
Okay.
and forms communities around the products. Like there is a Karthikeyan who is a Google Padmanabhan. He's a Google developer relation
Yes. 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 He
manager.
is. He is.
So that
Yes.
kind of position does matter in the startup for now, or what is the like? What do you think about that?
In the initial phase, I don't think so those position matters. But see, when it comes to startups, you need to realize one part. You need to have a very short team. You cannot have,
Yeah,
you need to only have the teams which really add value to the company.
yeah,
Bringing in more will, first of all, for a startup, will reduce their overall, time through which they can sustain. If let's say
yeah,
they are going into law specifically, in general as well, if you will bring more people into place, you will have higher burn rate. So you try to figure out an optimal area for you. You try to figure out a team which is what you really require to work on, and it is not an additional part. And that is good as well, because every team member in the startup gets in proper
mhm,
value, and they feel,
yeah,
they'll be able to see their work being appreciated, emphasized, and they will be able to grow as well. But if you have multiple teams, even management part might be tough. Get the
yeah,
right team. And initially, I think for a startup, they don't require developer relations as such. But over the time, as startups grows, they go big. More structure come into picture at some certain point in time. When you are maybe, you are a company which is widely known, let's say maybe on a country basis. And it depends, see, again, it
yeah,
depends on the kind of product you are providing, service you are providing.
yeah,
Sometimes a company can work with very less employee in account, maybe even less than 50, 25, and can still
yeah.
provide the services worldwide. It's a pure software based company.
Mhm.
Or it's a company which even is still in a single state, but it's still requiring a lot of human power to work on. So it depends,
Yeah,
from company to company, from idea to idea, from the thing that they're working on. But in general, what I see is, uh, until unless you have a big team, you don't require these additional roles. When you have a big team, a lot of developers, a lot of customer relation people, a lot of marketing people, you might not really require these roles in the initial phase.
okay. Okay,
You will
so
have to choose
uh,
when you really require those roles, when you feel that development, the management part, and being able to understand what they want to convey is getting hard, and the
yeah,
team effectivity is getting down in general. So you will require to
yeah,
understand those perspectives, the teams in general, to have those people. You will need those people, but initially you will want to require those people.
yeah. To summarizing up, like lastly, I'll say like what what is your life rule? Like while working, what are the three rules, three or four rules, whatever, three or four rules you suggest to the freshers or anyone who wants to work in a startup or to build a startup himself to be in the list of unicorns in next upcoming years? What are your three rules that can define a good startup founder can
So there are two aspects. Just help me clarify that
you
part. Do
can
you
you
want
can
me
go
to?
the personally you can your observe your thoughts like
I can definitely share my thoughts, but there are
yeah
two things I think I need to cater on. One thing is, let's say if I am a fresher and I want to
yeah
probably work in a company or a startup, maybe perhaps, how can I take things forward? Or let's say if I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, I really want to take the field of entrepreneurship. As a founder, I want to build my own startup. What kind of rules do I need to follow? So, do you want me to provide answer for the first part, for the fresher who is looking for a job, or for an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to start his own startup?
yeah so let's summarize the uh,
No, no,
today's talk.
I'll,
Yeah,
I'll, I'll perhaps, yes, please go ahead.
yeah, you might enjoying the like whole conversation. And it's going to really amazing turn. We have like time constraints. The users might like lose like hey kya bore kar raha hai. So let's
I don't
summarize
know.
the
You ask users if they are getting bored or not. This is a
yeah
nice poll to have. But I still feel I should give the answer which the question you had. I'll try to summarize it from the founder perspective. If you are really an
yeah
entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, and you want to build up your own
mm-hmm.
startup, like I mentioned earlier, you need to first of all figure out a problem, which industry has, which you really would like to work on, and you can stick to work on. There will be hard times. You should be ready for those hard times, and you need to figure out why are you really into startups first of all.
yeah
So you figure out your problem. You should be passionate about your problem which you need to work on. You also need to be someone who takes his work very seriously, and you need to have a very strong discipline, because as a founder, no one's going to tell you what you need to do. You need to figure out your own priorities. You need to figure out how you have to manage time.
yeah
You will have to do those things by yourself, so you will require very strong discipline. You need to figure out how to get these things done. And lastly, what I believe is what you will require is you will
mm-hmm.
you need to be flexible to understand the industry. You need to be someone who is very open, who can understand ideas, who can accept ideas, who can sometimes at times is ready to understand that something what you felt is right is not right. You can do
yeah
retrospective on that part. You need all those, you will need all those part, and you definitely will require perseverance, which is required either way around,
yeah
whether you are an aspiring entrepreneur or a normal person who just wants to get your life, or do a job where you can still make impact but not take high risk like the founders do. Because if you are going into that path, it definitely is a high risk part, because if things don't really work out, you are nowhere. You will have to maybe start things again. But definitely, it is not that you will start from scratch. You will be better than where you were earlier, but you might not get the kind of economic stability which you could have otherwise achieved if you would have gone from a normal job way forward.
yeah
Summarizing, you need to have a perseverance. You need to have perseverance. You need to be
yeah
you need to bring in you need to bring strong discipline yourself, because no one's going to tell you anything. You need to be high risk taking person, and you need to be very open to listen to people and understand what they have to say, to take things forward.
yeah so that's really interesting. We have a very good conversation. Yogesh, thank you so much for joining us. Like
Same here. I
we
really
gone.
like. Yes, please
Yeah,
please
please.
go ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So I'll just wrapping up. Thank you so much for joining, Yogesh. The title sure will be like a very good product, and I'll wish you best of luck for your like whatever the future your plans is, and this like this upcoming year is going to be a great for you, and that is sure for sure. Uh, if you
Hoping for the
like, if
best.
you have, yeah, hoping
Yes.
for the best. If you have any announcements or any want like, if you want to recruit someone, you can do it. And thank you so much for joining. We are like, yeah, go ahead with you.
Yeah, since startup, we definitely will be looking for recruitment soon enough. I'll connect you or the team in general for sure. But
Yeah.
if I have to, summarize, and if I have to say final things from myself, either you are being a startup person or not a startup person, be very open to the ideas that you are work be very open to the things that you are working on. Be very confident the thing that you are be confident on things that you really want to take things ahead, whether it being choosing a lifestyle, uh, choice, be choosing your career choice. You need to be very aware of what you are making, what choice you are making, and go ahead with the choice. So I don't think so I'm not able to get any more ideas, but that's all about me. So thanks again, Devendra, for calling here. I enjoyed the perspectives. I enjoyed sharing my perspective at least, and those are my just
Yeah.
perspectives. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just looking
We'll
forward
catch up
if
soon. We'll
and when
catch
we
up soon
require.
with in person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you guys choose me to bring in next time for any other talk, more than happy to be there
Yeah,
and again have
100%.
these conversations. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for joining, guys. This podcast is the last podcast for the year, and let's get catch up with the upcoming years. Best of luck for your 2022, and happy New Year. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye, guys. Yes.
Bye bye.